To all of my freaks, I have finally watched Guillermo Del Toro's Frankenstein on Netflix. Now here we go for the reviews opinion video for Del Toro's Frankenstein, or Frankenstein 2025. Now, looking at my notes, I realized that this is basically just reviewing Mary Shelley's, because Del Toro actually based this off of Mary Shelley's rather than Universal's version. So basically, it's really hard to review the movie since it's based off the book, and there are closer things to the book. There are some things that it didn't do in the book and it did do in the movie, because basically reviewing the movie is like reviewing the book. So it's kind of hard to decide on how I'm going to deliver this. And real quick, if for those that don't know, the story is actually about the duality of life and death. How Victor sees death as unfair, especially after the death of his mother, who was the only one who cared about him. But then Elizabeth is first to mention that the idea of messing with life after death shouldn't be touched, and even the smallest creatures are a beautiful part of life. And eventually, even the creature has his own ideology about life and death, and he concludes that after witnessing the dark part of life and the harshness of going through life, that he concludes that death is necessary for life. That the only remedy to pain, suffering, and dark memories is death. Yo, wait for all the emo kids to put that on their journals and t-shirts and put Sharpie that on their Vans or their Converse. Remedy to life is death. Yo, shout out to my emo fam. There's a lot of religious references in the beginning, like Elizabeth mentioning that only monsters try to play God, and even Christoph Waltz's character calling the creature their Adam, referencing Adam and Eve. Then later in the story, the creature, or at least that's what he's credited as, but I might call him a monster once in a while. It's my channel. Deal with it. Later in the film, he's actually reading the Bible when he's with the blind man, which is referenced in the OG Bride of Frankenstein, by the way. He reads about the first man and the first woman in the first garden, then a fall of a tower, and a man who's lost everything, and men who fight dragons. Obviously referencing Book of Genesis with the Garden of Eden, Tower of Babel, Book of Job, and the Book of Revelation. So not only are there just verbal references, but there's even visual biblical references. Now, if you watched my trailer reaction, I mentioned how when Victor was starting to create the creature, or the process was beginning with the electricity, I noticed that the creature is on a table. As he's being raised, he's kind of positioned like the crucifixion, or hands out, because I don't understand why else that position is necessary during this process. So it does seem like it is like a biblical reference. But if that isn't enough, as he's being raised on that cross table, there are electrical probes on the creature's head that kind of resemble a crown. Maybe that's a far-fetched reference, but there is one thing that I did notice, is that the creature has a wound that looks like the wound Jesus has when they pierced his side at the crucifixion. So that seems like it's too on point of it not being a religious reference. Now, I'm not saying that this film is a religious film, but as a Christian man, I can't help but notice that these, religious aspects, I just can't help but notice it and point it out. Okay, Mary Shelley wrote this, and Del Toro just emphasized it with his visuals. Because keep in mind, he is basing this off Mary Shelley's story, and not Universal's version. Anywho, this film really does a good job on pushing Mary Shelley's message when she wrote Frankenstein, or modern-day Prometheus. Because what stuck out most was the progression of the story is a real roller coaster of emotions. Because the film starts showing the wrath of a monster, and then at the end we see what made him that way and why he is the way he is. So in the beginning we have this fear of the monster, but at the end we have this love for a creature who longs to find a place. And not just us. We're not the only ones who go through a roller coaster of emotions. Because Victor goes through a character arc of an arrogant scientist to a monster hunter to a father who wants to reconcile with the one he's hurt. But the creature is the one who goes through a character roller coaster. He starts off as a scared, lost child, to a wandering soul with longing, to a raging monster, to a man with peace. Now, I don't know any other version that kind of did that, to be honest. Then again, I haven't seen every single Frankenstein rendition, but with the ones that I have seen, they don't really deliver Mary Shelley's point, because there have been many different versions, remakes, reiterations, retelling of the story, because Boris Karloff's creature, or monster, really sold of him being a lost soul towards the middle of the original Frankenstein, but then we really see more of that in The Bride of Frankenstein. But what makes this remake different than from the other ones is that you actually feel for the creature in this one. The actor really sells the performance of loss, loneliness, desire for companionship, and even innocence that can easily turn into full wrath. Now, there's not a lot of versions of Frankenstein that actually did that. I think that really the closest one is Boris Karloff in The Bride of Frankenstein. Because technically, Frankenstein and The Bride of Frankenstein is part 1 and part 2 of the novel, so to speak. I don't know, because Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was, to be honest, a little forgettable. Then we have I, Frankenstein, which is about the monster joining this 1,000-year war against gargoyles and vampires, I think? Then we have Victor Frankenstein, that it's more just about him and his obsession on creating life after death. So it's more about the process of him making the monster, and then also the relationship he has with his assistant, the Hunchback, who's played by Daniel Radcliffe. And the monster in that one only has about, I don't think, any more than 5 minutes of screen time. Both of them were actually pretty decently fun movies, even with the context of it being about the Frankenstein monster, or at least being within the realm of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. But then, we have some newer wave Frankenstein-esque movies that I haven't seen yet. Like the one with, what is it called? Missing Parts or something? The one with Kristen, or Emma, what? I don't know. It was a recent one with Mark Ruffalo where she was just dancing like a weirdo. I can't remember which movie it is. That's supposed to be like a Frankenstein-esque movie. Then you have, what was it? Lady Frankenstein or something like that? The new one with Cole Sprouse or whatever? One of the Sweet Life twins. And now you have the new one. Basically, it's a Bride of Frankenstein movie with Frankenstein monster being played by Christian Bale. But it's like Joker 2. I'm not even kidding. If you've never heard of it, I'll put it on the screen of what it is. It's supposed to be coming out soon, I think. So, finally, after years of just movies being, it's inspired by Frankenstein, or it's based off of Frankenstein, or it's a Frankenstein concept where the scientist builds, or someone builds a dead body and they try to teach. Finally, we actually get a Frankenstein movie! A Mary Shelley Frankenstein. Why was it so hard to try to just do the movie? Why was it so hard? Well, I guess in a way it's a good thing that we did wait, because who better than to make this Frankenstein movie other than the director of Monsters himself, Guillermo Del Toro? Who better? So in a way it's a good thing that it waited this long, because I can't imagine another director, especially the directors who made Poor Thing, the Frankenstein girl movie with the Sprouse twin, and then Maggie Gyllenhaal, by the way, is directing that Bride of Frankenstein and Joker 2-esque movie. She's directing that, by the way. So either those three directors trying to make a Frankenstein movie based off of Mary Shelley, ooh boy. So thank God Guillermo Del Toro hopped on it. And he actually did it. And he did it well. Because he is a man of honor who respects the original source, especially when it comes to monster and horror. Okay, now that part's out of the way, let's get down to the nitty-gritty. The look of the monster. When I first saw what the monster looked like, I was disappointed. Because I was expecting something horrifying. They're doing the Phantom of the Opera effect. They keep getting handsome men to play monsters rather than trying to get someone to look like a monster. And if you don't know what I mean about the Phantom of the Opera effect, in the novelization of Phantom of the Opera, the Phantom is a terrifying looking ghoul. And the book describes the Phantom, or Eric, as a hideously deformed man with a skull-like face, parchment-colored skin, and yellow eyes, often lined to a living corpse. Now, starting from the Claude Rains, do any of those phantoms look like that? Lon Chaney's did. Was close, actually. It was an ugly creature, but the rest were just beautiful men who have a scar on the face. because of the musical. And now I think they're kind of doing the same thing with Frankenstein's monster. They did the same with Dracula, by the way. Bram Stoker described it as Count Orlok. Fun fact, Nosferatu is based off of Bram Stoker. It's actually the story of Dracula. They just changed the name for copyright reasons. And then the play came, and then now they made Dracula this handsome, alluring man to lure his victims. Which makes sense, if you ask me. But when it comes to Frankenstein, they're trying to make him look somewhat decent in this film. Because he has like chisel features, he's tall, the long hair actually makes him look like, I'm not gonna lie, he actually looks handsome with long hair, the chiseled face, and his body does not look like pieces of different bodies formed together. It just doesn't. It looks like patches of skin put onto a body. And when they released the photo of how the monster really looks like, I swear, he looks like an engineer from the Alien franchises. I mean, he just straight up looks like an engineer. Like the color and everything. And by the way, I was really let down because I was ready to see it look more like the book describes it. Which, by the way, I have right here in my hands. And I will read to you an excerpt from chapter 5, just like I did for Phantom of the Opera. And it says, "His limbs were in proportion, and I had selected his features as beautiful. Beautiful, great God. His yellow skin scarcely covered the work of muscles and arteries beneath. His hair was lustrous black and flowing, his teeth of pearly whiteness, but these luxuries only formed more horrid contrast with his watery eyes, that seemed almost of the same color as the dun-white sockets in which they were set, his shriveled complexion and straight black lips." When I read that, the only thing I see that's similar to the movie is the hair, the teeth, and even his eyes. That's it. I was expecting exactly the yellow skin where like you can see the muscles and his arteries, like things are exposed, thin lips. Oh, what would be a good visual of what the creature could look like? Something that's already been created. I'm sure I'll find a picture while I'm editing this. But I guess you can expect that if you're trying to remake a movie from based off a book, you don't get everything specifically right. But I don't know why it didn't get like the skin yellow, and then, you know, like things that are exposed, like arteries, his muscles, seeing the muscles. I was expecting more exaggerated form of that, because I don't remember De Niro looking like that. Now, Boris Karloff, now he actually looked like a dead man walking. But then again, that's Universal remaking it rather than being it more based off of the book. Even though it is based off the book, it's not. It's actually a loose rendition. Or is it? I will have to do a video on comparing all of the Frankenstein movies and the Dracula and the Phantom of the Opera movies. I have to do a series of those on which one does the book justice, which is more closer to the book. I'm sure there's many videos like that, but I'm going to try to do my own. Del Toro really did, I think he did it justice of the film in this one. But then again, I really think we deserve a remake of Universal's Frankenstein. There have been plenty of movies that try to do Mary Shelley's Frankenstein over and over again, bring the word to life on the screen. But now I think it's time that we get a remake of Universal's version of Frankenstein, just like Universal's version of Dracula. I think we need to get those remakes going now, rather than from the book, because we've got plenty of those already. Leave in the comments on what you guys think, if we need more of those kind of remakes rather than from the book, and have more remakes of the originals. Granted, the originals will always be the originals. No one can take that away from them. Obviously. They will always be originals. But after When I Was Invisible Man, I think we all would love to see newer versions of the monster movies. Universal's monster movies. Leave in the comments if you agree. One last thing I want to say. As I'm editing this, I realized I brought up Nosferatu earlier, which got me thinking, we got some pretty decent Gothic films in recent times. Because as I'm recording this, which is November of 2025, almost Thanksgiving, almost a year ago, around Christmas of 2024, we got Nosferatu. So we got a pretty decent run of these Gothic horror movies. All we're missing is Phantom of the Opera. In retrospect, Frankenstein isn't actually a horror film, because Universal's Frankenstein is more of a horror film, but Mary Shelley wrote it as a sci-fi. Now I need to ask, which one of the two movies do you guys think was a better Gothic film? Now I know both are pretty different. Like I mentioned, Nosferatu is more of a horror monster film, and Frankenstein is more of a sci-fi satire on life and death. Let's just put that in perspective. Let's realize that yeah, those are the two stories, but they both have this gothic vibe to it. And which one do you think definitely delivers a good dark gothic feel to it? Because I think Frankenstein was more of a emotional gothic story, while Nosferatu was more of a visual gothic story, if that makes sense. I don't know. Why don't you guys let me know? Let me know in the comments on what was more gothic and which one was a better version of a gothic tale, or which one was a better gothic film. Anywho, that's my review opinion on the Frankenstein movie directed by Guillermo Del Toro, Frankenstein 2025. Let me know what you guys think in the comments if you have seen it. Please give a subscribe, share these videos with your friends, because if you guys subscribed and gave us a high view count, it would make me feel so alive. Sorry, not really. This is Feature Freaks, everything about movies. So keep watching movies, guys, because watching movies will make you feel alive. Okay, I'm done.
The beauty of Catholicism is it's very gory and very full of pageantry, very operatic. I like that. And many of the Frankenstein versions, they look like accident victims. They look really gory and stitchy and patched in an ugly way. And I thought, well, if a guy has been planning to do this for 20, 30 years, he's gonna make something beautiful. Whatever I do to change it, if I feel the spirit is preserved, I'm okay. Because adapting is like marrying a widow. You have to be very respectful of the late husband's memory, but now and then you have to party like it's 1999.